Hello friends, welcome back to another video. If you're new and not subscribed, I'm Kayla Bame, and you should really think about subscribing to my channel because the bestest things in the world happen when you do that. So, subscribe. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about reverse glass painting. I have done so many videos on reverse glass paintings. I think it still is, I don't know, I'm not really with the trends, if you know what I'm saying. I'm kind of living under a rock in my own room. But the reverse glass paintings were a massive trend on TikTok. It was the anime reverse glass paintings, but you could do other things. It doesn't have to be anime. I do a lot of anime stuff. Have anime paintings all over my room. Literally all over my room. I want to have a whole wall of anime paintings, okay? But the reverse glass paintings were a massive trend on TikTok. I saw it and I tried it and everybody loved the reverse glass paintings. So I've done so many now and a lot of people have questions. I had a lot of stuff that I've learned from the very first time I did it to now. So for today's video, I am going to be giving you guys 7 tips that I wish I knew when I first started reverse glass paintings. Let's do it. We're gonna go from number 7 down to 1, okay? So the 7th tip that I have, obviously, is to be extremely generous with the paint. When you're doing reverse glass paintings, you really have to kind of cake the paint on. It's not super thin layers and a lot of thin coats. You just have to really cake it on. I'm not entirely sure why. I don't know if you guys have ever done like window paintings, but sometimes when you do window paintings, I did a window painting for Christmas like 2 years now, but I do thin coats and a lot of thin coats. Sometimes for whatever reason, because it's glass, it doesn't really work out so well, and when you try and layer the paint, sometimes it scrapes off the window because the window is slick. There's not a lot of grip on it like there is with a canvas. So I think maybe that's why it works so well with reverse glass paintings, because the glass, it's slick and you just really gotta cake it on and it works. So be generous with the paint. Lots and lots and lots of paint. Don't worry about how much paint you're putting on there. The more paint, the better. Okay? Okay, number 6 is to use small, round paintbrushes. Don't use the flat or flat, thick paintbrushes. Use the round brushes. They work so well for reverse glass paintings. It works so well for the little details in the reverse glass paintings. Round brushes are hands down the way to go. And you know, the type of paintings that I do, sometimes the smaller the brush, the better. I have super small round brushes. It just works out so much better than it would if you used a flat, thick brush. The flat brushes just don't work well for me. With the glass paintings, round brushes, definitely the way to go. Number 5, toothpicks and paper clips. Who would have thought? Toothpicks and paper clips are the best things to use to fix your mistakes. And for some reason, it took me forever to figure this out. I literally tried everything other than using a toothpick and a paper clip to fix my mistakes. I was using like paper towels, I was trying to use Q-tips, and they were just way too big. Toothpicks work great to just clean up the lines, even a paper clip. I prefer toothpicks, but toothpicks, so great for cleaning up your lines. When you make a mistake and you go outside of the lines, use a toothpick. I don't know if this is just something that, because I'm me, I never thought about a toothpick, never thought about a paper clip until one day I saw it and I was like, huh, that would work great for fixing mistakes on my reverse glass paintings. Number 4, if you're using oil-based paint pens, even acrylic paint pens and acrylic paint, water doesn't really get it off that easily. But you know what works great for erasing mistakes? Nail polish remover. I use 100% acetone nail polish, and that will get off the paint pen, it'll get off the acrylic paint. It works great. Another option is rubbing alcohol. That's great for taking off the paint. That's for when you want to erase your mistakes, not really fix the mistakes. That's when you use a toothpick. But like when you need to erase a whole section, or when you're outlining the piece and you need to erase the whole line, acetone works great. And I use that to remove decals off of stuff too. It's just so handy. You should have nail polish remover 100% acetone in your art stash if you don't already. It's great for so many things, but it's a great eraser for reverse glass paintings. So if you want to do a glass painting, you should get some acetone. Number 3, everything, and I mean everything, needs a second coat when you're doing a reverse glass painting. Even the outlines. You outline it once, you're more than likely going to need to outline it again. When you paint a layer, you're probably going to need to paint a little bit more over it again. It's really hard to get everything like full coverage first time around. So to be on the safe side, it's so much better just to do the second coat and then move on to your next layer. You know what I'm saying? Because I had, in the beginning, I would put one layer that I thought looked like it was thick enough, and when I was finished, you could see through the paint. It wasn't thick enough, it wasn't covered fully, and that's just so frustrating because once it's dry, the only way you can get the paint off is to scrape the whole thing off and start over. So, reverse glass paintings, always put a second coat. Always, for everything, the outline, go over it again with your paint pen just to make sure that it is fully covered to the max. Number 2, because you're using so much paint and such thick layers of paint, it takes forever to air dry. Like, one time I left a painting out to air dry overnight, and when I woke up, it still wasn't fully dried. And when you're painting on top of layers, you kind of need the previous layer to be fully dry before you go over it, because then the paints start mixing together and the lines start getting blurred and it doesn't look as nice as it should be. So if you're impatient like me, use a blow dryer. I call it my mom's ray gun. It's just a heat gun that literally blows hot air, and I use that to dry the paint because it dries the paint super quick. The only thing, if you're going to be using a blow dryer or a heat gun, just move it around a lot. Don't keep it in one spot, because I don't know if you guys know, but the little ray gun that my mom has that I use gets extremely hot. And so when you put an extremely hot thing next to paint, like a blow dryer, it will cause it to bubble and crack. And normally when it cracks on the back, so you can't really see it when you flip it around. But if you use a blow dryer, it will blow all those air bubbles down onto the surface of the glass. So when you flip it around, you'll have all these little air bubbles that are showing, and you don't want that. So hair dryer to dry the paint, just be careful with it. And the number one thing I wish I would have known when I started reverse glass paintings is to flip the glass around and continually check the piece to see if everything is the way that it should be. For some reason, when I first started off, I had my glass taped down to the reference picture, and I thought, I can't take the tape off. I can't turn around and look until I'm completely done with it. No. When you're doing it, I think it's extremely important to constantly turn the glass around and check to see if, one, everything is fully covered, everything is where it needs to be, you filled in all your lines, because sometimes when it's glued down, not glued down, but when it's taped down to the reference picture, sometimes it looks like something's completely filled in, but when you flip it around, it's not. And that's because the reference picture's in the background, the colors are similar, so you're gonna miss little spots here and there sometimes. For example, when I'm doing hair, oftentimes anime hair, the tips are very pointy, and it looks like I got all the way down to the point of the hair, and I kept going, I put the skin tone over, and there's pieces of skin tone on the edges of his hair. Had I turned the glass around and looked, I would have seen that there was a piece missing, and I would have filled it in with the proper color. So, it's okay to continually turn around and look at your work to make sure it looks good, to make sure everything's covered. Sometimes I even hold the glass up to the light to make sure the paint is actually fully covered and it's not gonna look uncovered in some pieces. Sometimes when you don't put the paint on thick enough, it'll look thick in certain places and thin in other places, and the light, you can see through it and it just doesn't look good. So if you're doing a reverse glass painting, take the tape off of one side, flip it around and look just to double check to make sure everything's filled in and covered the way you want it to be. Alright, that is it for today's video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave the comments down below if you found any of these tips helpful. I don't know if they actually are helpful. These are just things that I have learned over time that have helped me make my glass paintings look better. So if you ever want to try glass paintings, it really isn't that hard. You should give it a try. It is a lot of fun. Obviously, first time around, it's not going to be perfect, but I think they're super fun to do. So give it a try and use these tips and see how it turns out. But I'll see you guys back here next time. Peace.